On this episode of Exactly How, we're going to show you how to make $1 million on one deal and how to put together a type of deal that I've never seen before on this episode of Exactly How.
You're listening to the Exactly How podcast, where you'll hear the underground, closely guarded wealth building secrets of successful people around the globe. Discover exactly how to improve your mental, physical, and financial health. Feel better, make more money, live, give, and prosper in today's exciting, fast-paced world filled with opportunity for those who know exactly how.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Connected Investors podcast and YouTube show, Exactly How. During this episode, you're going to discover exactly how to flip apartment buildings and make millions of dollars on one deal. For those of you who are new, my name is Ross Hamilton, today's host and CEO of ConnectedInvestors.com, the real estate investors marketplace and community. Today, we have the privilege to learn from a man who flipped an apartment building and made over $1 million in profit on one deal. This guy can definitely teach you something about making a lot of money really quickly. Prior to his career in real estate, he worked at the Marine Corps. And all that changed when he saw a property for sale that he thought could change his life, and he decided to take a chance. I would describe our guest as obsessed and driven. I'd like to introduce you to the one, the only Stevie Wibble. How are you?
I'm good, Ross. How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm so excited to be talking to you about this deal, because very rarely do I get to talk to someone who made over $1 million on one deal in the shortened time frame that you made money on this apartment complex. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's I like to say it was a long, short period because it felt like it took forever. But yeah, it was an interesting deal. It was probably the best deal I've ever done.
Yeah. No, I've never made $1 million on a single transaction. So it's definitely envious of that trip to the closing office and drive to the bank there. Did the bank tellers look at that check and think something fun, or did you just direct deposit it?
It was all about wire.
It was all about wire. There you go. So, well, great. Before we dive into exactly how to make $1 million flipping apartment complexes, Steve, you contribute a lot of your success to always looking to learn more. Why do you think this has played such a big role in your success?
That's a great question, Ross. I'm a type of person who can't sit still. I get bored very easily. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went into the business that I knew. My father was in the printing business, so I knew that business. Went into sales, built a company up, sold it, had a non-compete, didn't know what to do. So I asked my brother, hey, what are you doing? I'm in my 20s. I'm flipping real estate. Let me show you what I'm doing. He was doing one here, one there. I took a look and said, man, if you scale this could be really great. So we decided to go out and make our first deal, and our first deal was 36 properties.
Oh, wow.
One shot.
Hey, I mean, no reason to start small. They say making your first million is the hardest. So just
Well, I knew nothing about it. Here's what I knew. I knew what it would cost to rehab these. There were row homes in Camden. Okay, so they're pretty cut and dry. It was a similar home style. I knew what it would cost to fix each one up, worst case scenario, best case scenario. I knew what they would retail for. So I just had to I figured, what's the difference between doing one or doing 100 if you know the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So I studied a lot. I read a lot of books, and then I dug in. And let me tell you, reading is great. Being coached is great, but doing it is a whole different gig.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was. I did my first deal at 18 after reading about half of a book, and the rest was just getting in there. And that's why I think, a lot of people in real estate that come in and become very successful, they're not necessarily, the academic types. A lot of times someone who has to know everything before they start, they never get started, because
that's exactly right.
You just can't anticipate everything. My background prior to real estate is I used to compete semi-professionally in BMX freestyle. So it's like reading a book about hitting a jump. When you're in the air, lean slightly forward, grab your seat with your knees, and spin your handlebars. You can read about it, but until you're out there actually doing it, it's really tough to understand what that all means. So I appreciate the way that you jumped right in.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I thought I was being ripped off, so I went and decided to rehab a home by myself. When I say by myself, I mean literally by myself, to figure out who was ripping me off and who wasn't. And I got to tell you, roofers are underpaid.
Oh yeah. Hey, every time you walk up that ladder, you better have a thing of shingles on your shoulder.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh
So
man.
anyway, so that's how I ended up getting in the business. And ironically, those 36 properties led to that apartment complex a couple years later.
There you go.
Directly.
There you go. Well, for everyone who's listening, if you're not in the real estate game, comment below if you're planning on jumping in. Give us some love on social. Interact with us in some way. It helps the algorithms allow more people to find us, and it really gets us fired up. And there's really no other business where you can get into it and say, "Oh, and then I made $1 million on one deal." Very, very few and far between. So that's why you're here, because you understand how important real estate is. And we're going to dive into exactly how he did this. Because what makes the Exactly How Financial Freedom podcast and YouTube show unique is every show comes with a detailed action plan. So you can visit exactlyhow.com, download the blueprint, follow along right there. And there's so much good information there. Actually, when you go to Exactly How, you can throw your name in the hat to win our $3,000 software that can locate all of the best apartment complexes to flip, as well as single family properties. This is the pre-MLS. It's only available here. And we're going to give it to one of our lucky listeners on this show right here, right now. So let's go ahead and jump right into this here before we announce the winner here. So prior to jumping on with our guest, we talked about the process of what he went through. So first we're going to talk about how he did it. Then we're going to talk about what he did right, because if you cash $1 million check, he did something right. But then we're going to talk about a lot of things that went wrong. So that's where I got really interested when he was telling me about the inner workings of this deal. And that will help you kind of sniff out potential issues in the future, or just have that spider sense when something's not quite right. So hang on until the third portion of this, because we're going to go ahead and give you some things that can really help you out. So let's jump right into it here. So just give me an overview on how you found this deal and put it all together.
Okay, great. So like I mentioned in the beginning, our first deal was 36 properties. We found them looking through the newspaper, of all things.
What's that?
Yeah, you're right. So I saw that somebody was selling 3 properties, called them up, went and looked, and asked if they had any more. They said, as a matter of fact, we do. We have 33 other ones. So I said, show them all to me. They showed them all. I said, what if I made you an offer on all of them? And I think they were asking $35,000 each. Long story short, we got them for 11,000. No, I'm sorry, 9,500
Oh,
each
wow.
per property. Now I had to come up with the money. Had no idea, but I made the commitment that I was going to do it. I told the guy I would close in 30 days. Found a hard money. I think I gave him $5,000 or something. Found a hard money company after being ripped off by the first hard money company. Found a hard money company that actually funded it and gave me the construction at closing. So I walked away from closing with $125,000.
Nice.
I then turned around and sold half the properties that were occupied for the total cost of my loan. So I sold the 18 properties, got back the entire loan. That's paid off. Now I own 18 properties outright.
There you go.
So no matter how that deal turned out, how the seller saw it is I performed when nobody else had. I came to the table, bought his crap and his good stuff, bought it all. So 3 years later, I think it was 3 years later, I get a phone call from the seller. And they had told me they were out of the real estate business. They were in commercial, but they still had this apartment complex, which I was well aware of. It was really run down. It was a bad neighborhood. It was just, they were slumlords, to be honest. And he said, look, we're looking to sell it. Do you know anybody that's willing to buy it? We want $4 million for it. I said, yeah, I think I might. Could you give me a year? He said, a year to do what? I said, I want to buy it. Would you give me a year? He said, okay, if you can buy it at $4 million, I'll give you a year. I said, okay, what do you want to escrow? He said, give me $1,000. $1,000. Okay. Wrote him a check for $1,000, and I went to work. I immediately contacted our local Section 8 and said, look, if I could bring you a 187-unit townhouse complex, could you get it 100% occupied? He said, actually, yes, we could. We could actually do it under a contract, but you'd have to bid on it. We need 3 bids. I said, okay, but it has to be in this town, right? She said, yeah. I said, there's nobody who has 187 units but me. He said, exactly. So we'll run in the newspaper. You bid on it, you'll obviously win. Long story short, there was a lot more involved in this. I had to get city council involved. The mayor had to approve it. Like, there was just a lot of politics that I really didn't understand. I was never involved in anything like this. So it was a great learning curve. I learned how cities work. I learned about all the crime that happens at City Hall. To be honest with you, there's just straight up criminals there. Getting permits, the whole deal. So we went in, when I say we, my father and my brother and I, and we rehabbed 3 of the 187 units. We got permission from the owner to do that, to show Section 8 what it would look like for them. They approved it. We end up winning the contract, but now our issue is we have to close. I don't want to close. I don't even want the building. So I contacted a broker who had flipped another small apartment building for me. I said, hey, I got this building, 187 units. I'm going to get you 100% occupation for 20 years. Find me a buyer. But they're going to have to rehab it, and we're going to have to put together a community center. There's a bunch of things we're going to have to do for the community. He said, well, what do you want? I said, I want $5.5 million. Okay, I'll get back to you. Wasn't 3 weeks later, he got back to me with somebody. They flew in from their location, and I don't want to share who they are. Took a look at the property, met with Section 8, met with everybody. I introduced them to the redevelopment authority. They were able to get tax credits on it. For those of you who are familiar with tax credits, that's a real valuable asset. So it was a real good deal for them. And they had, at that time, I believe, 74 complexes around the country. So they weren't new at the game. Needless to say, they did the deal. Unfortunately, we had a 1-year closing. It took 1.5 years to do the deal because of the tax credits and the things. But what's fun about the story is the tax credit, the authority, redevelopment authority, wouldn't allow that profit, the $1.5 million. They refused it. They capped it at $1 million. So I said, okay. My brother, I sent to real estate school. He got his license. I said, what if I had a broker involved who we were paying 10% commission to? They said, that's fine. So my brother got a $500,000 commission, and then we got the $1 million. That's how we got it.
Doing it for the family.
Doing it for the family, right? So anyhow, we get to the closing table, and you have to picture a room with, God, there's got to be 40 people around this table and around the room, because you got lawyers, you got the redevelopment authority. There's so many people involved. And the seller's there, and I'm sitting next to the seller, and they open up their folder as the deal's getting funded, and they hand me back my original $1,000 check, never cashed. So technically, I leveraged zero into $1.5 million. It was the greatest flip ever. I mean, my broker was telling stories to other people about it, like they'd never seen it done. But that really doesn't sum up the work that went into it. I have to tell you, I was working on this 8 hours a day, at least 3 days a week, for a long time. And in the middle of that, somebody had T-boned me, and I ripped my pelvis in half, broke my back. I was paralyzed. So I'm trying to put this deal together from a wheelchair. Now I'm fine now. I can walk. But all of this happened. That kind of helped with the delay. But the end result was the community ended up with a beautiful, beautiful townhouse development, community center, the whole deal.
I'll make sure to pull up a picture. I'll make sure to have a picture of it right here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you saw the before, I wish I had a before to send you, because it was an absolute wreck. But they ended up with a great property. The seller got the tax credits, or the buyer, excuse me, and they ended up selling it at a profit. And then, of course, the original seller was happy because they bought it at a HUD auction for $100,000 years and years prior, like 20 years earlier.
More millionaires are made in real estate. There were multiple 3 millionaires were made from this one deal right here.
Absolutely.
Boom,
and
boom.
And I ended up with a pretty solid reputation in the city, which was great because it made it easier for me to get other properties and get other tenants. I had to lean on a lot of people. I was the point person only through luck and hard work, but there was a lot of people involved.
Yeah. Now, let me just kind of recap here. First off, great job helping the community out like that. I mean, it's just the housing crisis for individuals who don't have the luxury to make the type of money that we make. They were, born in a tough area of town and need some help. So it's always good to be able to give back and make a lot of money. But what Steve did here is he did a wholesale, a micro flip to someone else. He didn't want to get his hands dirty. He had tried that before. It was too much for him. He put together all the paperwork, got it all ready to go. Someone else came in and he made over $1 million on that one deal, and even helped his brother out quite a bit. So that's a huge win there for everyone that's involved. So anything else you want to, before we talk about what you did right and what you did wrong, anything else you want to
yeah, well, part of the reason that I had the opportunity, one, to do this was reputation means everything. And if you're a new real estate investor, this is really important because I've also been a real estate agent for 30 years, and I've worked with a lot of big buyers, a lot of hedge funds. When you don't perform, nobody wants to come back to you. if you make an agreement, stand by your agreement, even if it's not a good one.
Yeah.
Renegotiate it. That's fine, but don't walk away. Don't just leave
Yeah.
somebody holding the bag.
Yeah, no, that's if anyone on the line here, if you follow our YouTube channel, make sure to watch our Really Flip series. We followed a real estate investor around with the camera for a year. So it's like a Flip This House show, but it's not about any one house. It's about all of the houses. And that's what he says over and over and over again. You have to do what you say you're going to do. Because
Exactly.
reputation is absolutely everything. And while I'm talking about resources, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and open up the description of this video and take a look as we get into the next steps, because we have some really valuable freebies and some trainings there. First and foremost, the training that I referenced in that in the description there is the best soup to nuts training on how to find, figure, fund, and flip real estate. It's the best training we ever put together. If you're listening to this podcast, you need to make sure to watch that. It's the best thing we've ever done, and it's free. And also, you can download this book right here. This is a book that I wrote, not self-published. Someone paid me a lot of money to write this book, The Inside Guide to Funding Real Estate Investments. This way you can find money. Our guests use some hard money here. This is so you won't get ripped off with hard money lenders. It's every checklist, absolutely everything you need. You have to have this right here. It's in the description. You don't have to pay me any money to ship it to you. I'm just going to give you the digital version. You don't even have to give me your email address. I just want to make sure that you have this when you're in the streets out there doing deals. So make sure to check out the description in the YouTube video. If you're on the podcast, visit exactlyhow.com. We'll make sure to have links there as well. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about what you did right.
Well, I think we kind of touched on that. What I did right is I did what I said I was going to do. So it gave me that opportunity. And like I said, they never even cashed my check. That's how much they trusted me, because I had performed. So and in addition to that, I didn't just look at it as, here's a chance for me to go in and fix a property up and flip it. I could have gotten the money. I could have found a way, but I kind of saw a bigger opportunity if I put the right people together. So I think what I did right was I did my research, talked to all the right people, made sure I got in touch with the city council, made sure I got in touch with the leaders in that particular community, because Camden, New Jersey is broken up into small little areas, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Everybody that needed to be in touch with was in touch with. Everybody. Yeah. So I didn't need neighbors being upset. I just made sure it was a smooth transaction. That's what I did right. And the second thing I did right was I never let go of it. And there were times where I was like, you know what, this just isn't worth it. But especially in a long play like that, when it takes that long, you can get very frustrated. But the payoff.
How'd you come up with that? Yeah. How'd you come up with that interesting deal structure? To say, hey, give me a year, and then to take it to Section 8 like that?
Well, knowing my history, if you know my history, we had already had over 300 rentals. And there was a waiting list for our properties because we were putting granite in when everybody else was doing Formica. Our tenants were the best tenants. The police, the neighbors all had our phone numbers. Like, we were very careful with what we did. I was born and raised in that city before it turned into what it turned into. And when we put a tenant in, we would go to the neighbors on each side, knock on the door, introduce ourselves, say, if there's a problem with our tenant, call us.
Gotcha. Wow, that's great. That's a great tip right there.
So, and they did. I mean, we actually, if somebody moved in that didn't have, food for their kids, we would make sure we loaded up their cabinets. These are the things we did, and Section 8 was well aware of that. So what happened is I developed this relationship with the director of Section 8, I mean, to the point where he actually sold me his investment properties.
Oh, nice.
So I knew I had that kind of relationship. So when I looked at that property, and it was just a terrible property that was ruining the rest of the neighborhood. And we owned properties in those neighborhoods. So, we knew how it was affecting us. I looked and said, if we could make this new, make it look like the place to be, it'll not only be great for the community, it'll be great for us from an investment point of view, because we owned 50, 60 properties around that property.
Yeah.
Right? So our tenants were much more difficult to get because they didn't want to have to walk by that particular property. So that's what made me think that picture. I was thinking big picture.
That's great.
Did I think I could get away with giving them $1,000? No.
Yeah, exactly. And a year, $1,000 in a year. But you know what? You got to ask. You don't know until you ask.
Well, here's the thing. I knew that it was probably worth about $2 million, $2.5 million at best. At best. And that's probably all he was going to get. And he knew it. When I say he, was partners. They didn't care because they owned it outright. They bought it for $100,000. They'd had it rented for years and years and years and years. They were only, the rents at the time were like $400 a month. I was getting $1,000 a month for my places that were the same size. Yeah. So I saw that. I saw the opportunity to raise the rent significantly. I told them that because they're asking so much, it's going to take the right buyer, or I'm going to need the right type of funding, so I need at least a year. And they were willing to give me the year. That's really
great.
And again, it boiled down to the trust that I closed on the other one.
That's awesome. No, there's a lot of learning lessons there, and that's great. So now we're going to go ahead and announce the winner of the pre-MLS software. This person went to exactlyhow.com. They commented on our stuff. They rated our podcast. They basically just gave us some love back. You know, we pull the best people. Exactly. We pull the best people from all around the United States together to show you exactly how to do things. Other people charge thousands of dollars for this type of information, but we just lay it all out. We give you a step-by-step blueprint and all the resources and free training. And we're here for you to help you on your journey. I started literally with nothing. I was a dumpster diver. That was my job position. I would drive from dumpster to dumpster and collect scrap pad, the stuff that you pull out of houses, and I'd bring it back to a recycling center and recycle it. That's what I was doing. And then I had my breaking point. I found real estate and became a millionaire very shortly afterwards. Very shortly, handful of years is what it took. It took a lot of work. So now I like to help people advance you to make those same types of jumps, to get out of your own head and jump in the game and stop sitting there. And I mean, it's great that you're here listening, but shut this off and go do something right now. I don't need the view. I'd rather you go. That's just, Steve, that's what we do to people here. Sometimes I send some rude emails where I'm like, wake the up, man. This is exciting right now. Go do this. So that's what we do here. And the winner of this amazing software that makes it so much easier to reach that financial freedom typically sells for $3,000. This person gave us some love. That's all we ask for. His name is Chris Bruce. Chris, congratulations, man. Awesome, man. I see from your comments, you're already an active real estate investor. So this is really going to put your game on, taking to the pros for sure. This is all the data on every property. You can search for apartment complexes that are run down. You can see the owners. You can call them up, and maybe you can get your $1 million deal there as well. We got people calling already trying to get in. So now let's go ahead and talk about what you did wrong. Because after the dust settled, I'm sure you looked back and saw a few things that didn't quite go like you had planned.
100%. If anybody ever tells me everything went right on a deal, I go, you're lying, or you didn't make much money. There was a few things, but the largest thing, and we discussed it prior to the show, was that in the end, the final contract, the sale to the end buyer who used the tax credits, was about 8 inches thick. And I thought I was a pretty smart guy, didn't need an attorney, and I read through it. And I looked right to the bottom where the numbers I was going to get. And
that's how I read contracts too.
Yeah, pretty much. Right. What's the bottom line?
Yeah.
And at the end, I was supposed to get 50% of the cash flow, the profit from the cash flow. Well, I used to own a manufacturing company. We tried to never show a profit if we could help it. It didn't even occur to me to put that together, and they didn't show a profit. First year they did. They paid me the first year. And then they never paid me another nickel. And there was something else that wasn't in that contract, which was due upon sale. So they quote unquote never made money, which they shouldn't have with the tax credits and the write-offs and depreciation. They should have lost money every year if they were smart. They sold the company. I'm sure they made a huge profit on that, but remember I was getting paid out of cash flow. Mm-hmm. So I got stiff for about $350,000. And if that's my worst case scenario in life, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I still walked away when you add in everything with about 1.16. All said and done.
Did your brother get $500,000, or did your brother get?
Yeah. Well, we were partners. Okay. It was my company. I was 55%. My brother and my father were 24% or 52%. And so it was all in one pie.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
So it broke down that way because we were doing another apartment complex that I bought for $300,000 and sold for $1.1 million in a year. We were doing that at the same time. So it was all kind of going into the kitty.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for that, little wake up call again.
Yeah. Read your contracts or get somebody else to read it.
Yeah. Have someone, that would have cost you about, $300, maybe more. It was a big contract. But actually that would have doubled the investment you made in the property.
Listen,
you only made a $1,000 investment. So if you had to pay a lawyer $2,000.
Right. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. You look at it from cash on cash. I understand why you went that route.
It was dumb. I was trusting. You know what it was? I was a man of my word, right? So if I said you were going to get X, you got X.
My CFO here, he trusts everyone, but he says trust but verify.
Verify. Right.
Is
Right.
his,
Well, it's never
like what
happened
I hear
since.
over and over and over again. I do a handshake and I'm like, great, let's go.
Let's do it.
Well, Steve, this was really good. I appreciate you coming on and taking us through this wild journey here. Let me ask you one of the toughest questions here.
Sure.
What do you think your life would be like if you never found real estate and you just stayed on the sidelines?
Wow. That's a great question because I had 10 years that everybody should have. I mean, everybody should have that 10 years. I don't know. I'd sold my company. I had a non-compete, couldn't go back into that business. I was looking for something to do. I don't know where. I honestly, Ross, have no idea where I'd be, but I bet you I'd be making money at it.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm kind of dabbling in day trading oil in the Dow because it's just something that's different, right? And obviously you still have real estate involved. But yeah, honestly, I would have never made my first million. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Would have never, especially at that age. I was in my 30s and made my first million.
Were you married?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, my poor wife went through the build up, the drop out, the drop off, been through it all. But you know what's great? It was never about the money. It was about the game. The money is just the score. I just loved taking something that was run down, making it good and putting somebody in it that loved it. And then moving on to the next.
That's really important, everyone, what Steve just said there. It's just the money is essentially the fuel to keep doing what you're doing, but you start small, right? And you got to love the process. You got to love the game. You got to love the fact that you brought a great property to a community. And there's hundreds of people living in that property today because of you that have a house. That's the part that you need to love. And what's great about real estate is you can make money in real estate and go do whatever the heck else you want to do with it. Right. I started in real estate and now a lot of my focus is in technology, but I use my real estate profits to fund my tech company. I didn't have to go beg a VC capitalist to start connecting investors, to build our app, to build privatelenders.com or any of the other game-changing things that we've brought to the real estate investing world. So,
I wish you would have been around when I started. You know how hard it was to find money?
Gosh.
It was unbelievably hard.
It was really this industry before privatelenders.com opened up. To find a private lender, you had to know someone. You had to know someone who knew someone.
I got ripped off. A broker said they knew someone. I paid them an upfront, I think $5,000 fee. Never heard from that guy again. And then I ended up finding the lender myself, thank God. But otherwise, I would have not performed on the first deal.
Yeah. Now you can shop for funding the same way you shop for a flight. And by the time this is live, I think we'll have it up. We also have reviews for all the lenders as well. When I buy a Yeti online, I'll read 100 reviews before I make a $20 purchase. But when people are out there borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's nowhere to do that. So we're trying to bring that transparency to the market there. And if you're privatelenders.com, the link for all that's in the footer there. Make sure, even if you go to that site, that you get this free book. We're giving it to you again. This way you can kind of get your head up to speed on what it really takes, the expectations. My favorite thing is, Steve, and I probably shouldn't even go down this route. People go to that site, they instantly get matched with lenders and they're talking to lenders. And then somehow they still get mad at me. I'm like, it's free for you to use. And you spent how long writing a review because the lender didn't want to fund the Empire State Building for you? I mean, we literally had someone go through there and try to get the Empire State Building funded. It was
tell them my story.
Joke around the office. Yeah.
Tell them my story. I mean, seriously, I got ripped off for $5,000 because I didn't know a hard money lender.
Oh my gosh.
God, I would have invested in your company had I known it was getting started because I know how valuable
I might have taken your money back then.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, Steve, do you have time for the rapid fire section of this?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. On a scale of 1 to 10, how strict were your parents?
Oh, 9.
Get up early or stay up late?
Early. Oh, both.
How many hours of sleep do you get?
4.
Favorite or most recent book you read?
The Why. Simon Sinek. Tell me it's about the why.
Oh yeah, it's a great book. If you could be any superhero, who would it be?
Oh, Superman.
What is something everyone should do less of?
Talk about it.
What is something everyone should do more of?
Do it.
Bitcoin, bang or bust?
Bust.
Will people visit Mars in your lifetime?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much for jumping on the show. This was this got my heart rate up just listening to your story there.
Thanks, Ross. Listen, I haven't talked about this in a long time. This was a lot of fun for me too. I really, really appreciate. Listen, you're one of my heroes. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, man, we're really excited that you decided to spend your time with us. And for everyone who also invested your most valuable asset with us, which is your time, you made it to the end of the show. You can actually finish what you start. That is such a rare talent set in today's world where everyone gets distracted by everything. So you found value here. Just give us a thumbs up, a like, a share. If you're on the podcast, give us a review. It helps more people find us when you do that. There's so much crap online. Just help people find good stuff like the Exactly How podcast and YouTube show. And your comments on the show go right to my phone. I'm obsessed with it for some reason. I love answering and helping you guys navigate what we have. So feel free to comment. I'll see it and make sure to respond as fast as I can. And again, make sure to visit exactlyhow.com. At the end of this YouTube show and podcast, you'll hear a little overview if you're on the podcast, or you'll see our Connected Investors app. This is free for you to use. You can pull it up on your phone, see all the investors, all the lenders, all of the deals right in your local market. And it's cool. It's so cool, Steve. Like as you're driving, if you've been in a new city for 10 or 15 minutes, you're not just driving through, you'll get notifications and you'll see all the best deals in that city, like right to your phone. It's set it and forget it. Everyone needs to make sure they have this app on the phone. We finally got it to where I'm excited about talking about it. It was a very, very challenging 2 years to get this thing up. So thanks for being on the show. Make sure to check out the links in the YouTube description, and I'll see you on the next Exactly How. Bye-bye.
The Connected Investors app connects you with investors, notifies you of available properties, helps locate cash buyers, and secure private funding to close deals. Set up in seconds to become a member of the Connected Investors social network. Now you can scroll through your main feed to find cash buyers, see investment properties not available to the general public, and network with investors by adding your own comments to a thread to keep the conversation going. The Control Center is your connection to add properties to sell, start new discussions, connect with local investors, and even find private funding. The Notifications tab will keep you alerted to new investment properties and offers. You'll also find new friend requests to connect directly with the community to build your network. From the property marketplace, you'll be able to find, favorite, and make offers on investment properties. Download Connected Investors today to find, figure, fund, and flip investment properties on the go.